Hi, I'm Jo Clark, and thanks so much for joining me today. This is the Redefining Midlife podcast, a podcast designed for the 40-plus woman who is determined to challenge society's myths and beliefs around midlife. It's for the woman who is inspired and ready to define midlife her way. Join me each week as I chat to health and wellness experts for up-to-date information on how to live well as some special conversations with incredible everyday women redefining what midlife can look like. Here's to making our next half of life even better than the first. A big welcome to episode 13. In this episode, you're going to meet Jen Bowers. Jen currently runs her own business as a brand strategist and stylist, social stylist and illustrator, and she's got 30 years experience in the industry. Over the years, Jen's worked in advertising agencies, design studios, and in the corporate sector with clients such as the Commonwealth Bank, Kimberly-Clark, O'Brien Glass, Swarovski, Citibank, RTA, and Woolworths. In 2020, and at the age of 52, Jen was made redundant. And it was then that she realised her passion for empowering women to achieve whatever the heck they wanted was just too strong for her to ignore. And this passion led her to create her new business of strategic brand coaching for women. Now, there's no doubting that Jen is a powerhouse, but as you're soon going to hear, her story hasn't always been a fairy tale. There have been many ups and downs and twists and turns. Jen is refreshingly open about the difficult times in her life, and I appreciate her candid honesty during our conversation. It's fabulous to see that today, Jen has finally found her confidence and strong sense of self. And as she loves to say, you're never too old and you're never too late to start another adventure. Welcome, Jen, to the podcast. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today because I know that the discussion we're going to have is probably going to make one woman or more women stop and think and go, if Jen can do it, I can too. And I know that's something that you have said to me in the past. So welcome. And just tell us a little bit about Jen Bowers.
Thank you so much for having me here, Jo. And when you say that, I always say to my clients on my socials, if I can do this, if I can do what I did in the past, anybody can. So I love that. That's I like that. That's something I'm kind of known for, that you think of me that way because, if I can do it, everybody can. So I am a brand strategist and stylist, and I guess a social stylist, considering I have two businesses. I have Gen B Brands, which is my brand coaching, and my Pink Pom Pom Social, which is my content library. And all of those businesses are basically built around helping women rise. So having a business that allows them to stand out like a flamingo in a flock of seagulls, and also to stand out from the competition and build a brand that is going to allow them to actually support themselves if life is not that fairy tale that we all want it to be. And we all know that happens, and it happened to me, and we'll probably talk about it. But I was lucky enough that I could build a business that allowed me to, to keep going and support myself and my daughter and my mum. So that's my big mission with my businesses, is to help women have those businesses that can do that.
That's a fabulous mission to have as well, Jen. And we'll talk more about, because I know how passionate you are about what you do and how you can help women with their businesses to create bigger and better businesses. But another thing that we'll go back to earlier, Jen, because I know that like so many women, you've had lots of ups and downs, twists and turns, high times, low times.
That's it.
And so take us back to early Jen in her 20s. So you were married reasonably young, in your early 20s?
Yeah, I was 23 when we got married.
So what were you doing and how were you feeling at that point in your life?
So, I was full of the joys of life, really. I had a great job. I worked in the design industry in an advertising agency, and, I'd met a wonderful man and life was good. We bought our first apartment. Life was really good. And then my dad actually got sick, and he got sick not long before we got married. Actually, it was like at the beginning of the year. He had a big surgery. He had a kidney removed. But he was good. He was fine for our wedding. We had a wonderful day. And then just 4 weeks later, we found out that he did have cancer and that the cancer had returned. At this time, there was no coming out of it. So it was a tough start to our marriage. And I don't know. Honestly, I look back and I maybe should have seen some of the signs then. But anyway, you just go on with life. And but yeah, back in the day, I was full of the joys of life and loved life a lot.
Oh, and you lived, you said you and your first husband had bought your home together or apartment together.
Yes, an apartment together.
And did you have family close by, friends close by? Was it a social time?
No. We've been brought up in the south side of Sydney. We bought on the north side. My dear dad helped us buy this apartment and we both worked on the north side, so it seemed logical. But after my dad passed, we actually did move back to the south side, and about 18 months later, and I ended up living in the street next to where I was brought up, which was kind of,
wow.
Yeah. So I've literally lived in the same suburb for 50, how old am I? Hang on, I have to think, how old am I exactly? I did with my best friend a little while ago saying, how old are we? So I've lived in the same suburb for 52 years.
That's impressive, Jet. That is very impressive. 52 years.
And my daughter started school in the same classroom that I started school in.
Oh,
I know.
wow.
It was so cool.
That is amazing. So
Yeah.
your mum lives close by with you?
No, my mum did live with us. She passed away in 2020. She actually so my ex-husband and I renovated our home because mum was by herself. She had been widowed at 53. Which kind of makes me go, oh my gosh, she was younger than I am right now.
Yes.
So after a few years, she had never really worked. It was that generation,
Yeah.
So she was self-funded and the house was just eating up money. So what we decided to do, all of us, was to sell her property and renovate ours. And that's what we did. And she actually lived with us from then up until she passed away, which was the whole point of doing that. So she would never end up in a home, in a nursing home or anywhere. Like, she was going to be with us until the end, which she was. And now my daughter and her boyfriend live downstairs and look after mum's cat, because I know mum would send a lightning bolt down if the cat wasn't looked after. So Dreamy lives the life of Riley downstairs with Chelsea Warren.
Yeah. So family is obviously very important for you, Jen, because, having your mum close by and being able to be there for her, especially during that time as she was aging and becoming unwell.
Yeah.
And now you've got your daughter and her partner living with you as well. So you obviously love that close connection to
I do, and it makes, like, I'm an only child, my daughter is an only child. We're not intrusive in each other's lives. We certainly don't live in each other's pockets, but it's nice just to know. And in this time as well, young people, she's still at university. If she was trying to rent in Sydney, it'd be impossible. And even for them to buy a property, property prices down here are just out of control. So I'm very grateful. It's been a struggle to keep this home. And that's another part of the story, I suppose. But yeah, it's been a struggle to keep it. But boy, I'm glad that when you see things come full circle and you come back to the original reason you did it, it just makes you feel very happy. And I was very lucky that when straight after mum passed, Chelsea didn't want to go down there, but my best friend had come over and I looked at her and she looked at me and I said, would you? And she said, could I?
Oh, is that right?
She lived downstairs for 12 months after she'd separated from her husband. It was quite a bad breakup. And so she moved down there and kind of got her life back together, looked after Dreamy, the cat. It's been, and I know mum would have been so very happy about that, because Leanne and I have been friends since we were 12, so a very long time, and mum's seen her grow up as much as she's seen me grow up virtually. So and it's nice to have that place downstairs where people can go.
Oh, that's special that you are able to have that, and it's also special that your daughter's there and she's being able to have you to live in your home and her home and see where that may then lead.
That's it. She's lived here her whole life. So I feel very blessed that I'm able to help her in that way.
Yeah, no, that's special.
Yeah.
So Jen, you had obviously some issues with your first husband because you're no longer together. And
No, we're not.
in the chat that we had prior to the recording, you mentioned that it was a time for you that when you had left your husband, it left you with some very deep mental wounds to the point
Yes.
where you felt a loss of yourself for some decades after you had separated. And are you happy to talk about that time for you?
I'm actually a pretty open book, because do you know what? If somebody listening to this gets some inspiration, then my job is done. Like, it really is. And there were times there, and I mean, this is really going right down into it. I was not working particularly. Like, I was just doing a bit of casual work. I was left with this home and my mother and my daughter, and I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? And some days, honestly, I would wake up and think, geez, it's just too much. It is just too much. Like, I just don't even want to get out of bed. It would be easier if I just was not here. However, of course, that would never happen. I would never, one, do that to my daughter or my mother, but more to my daughter, because how would she feel going into the future? That she wasn't enough to keep me there, for me to stay. So anyway, and I mean, I'm not a particularly, like, I don't suffer generally from a mental illness, thank God, because I've got friends that do, and I know how traumatic and awful it is. So I did manage to shake that off, and this is not the cure for everybody, but I was just like, you got to get up, Jen, you got to put on those big girl panties and get out there, because you got people depending on you. So I did, and I went back to what I do well, which is strategy and design. And I was contemplating what to do with the home, and my ex-husband said to me, you'll never be able to buy me out. I'm like,
challenge.
Yeah, you just watch me, matey. You don't ever say that to a Taurian woman. And 18 months later, I bought him out. And we're still in this home today. And it's so nice, as I said earlier, so nice to see this come full circle, because this is how it was always meant to be. So I do feel very, very, very blessed. But, as I said earlier, I'm no one special, but I'm determined. I am a Taurian and I'm really determined. And also it was like, okay, so I'm going to have to buy another property to live with my mum. And while we love each other a lot, one of us may kill each other and one of us will end up in jail, and that would not be good. So it's easier to just work.
Yes. Yeah. And could your mum see what was going on at that time, Jen, and support you throughout all of that as well?
She did. She was brilliant. Like, she was just my absolute cheerleader, through the breakup, through everything that happened. She really was. And I'm going to get teary, but I'm so blessed to have her, that she was there. And when I was working again, she, looked after Chelsea. We were a team. People often say to me, Chelsea's a beautiful girl. You've brought her up well. I'm like, well, it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
It was my mum as well. She was always there, and, she was quite strict. But I do have the funniest story. Chelsea was about 2.5, and she got in trouble upstairs for something. I can still picture what she was wearing. She had a little pink and white gingham dress on and the matching hat with a flower at the front. Anyway, she was howling and going down the stairs, and Mum heard her and came out, because the place is very separate. Mum has a front door in the foyer. She came out and she said, Chelsea, what on earth is wrong? Like, why are you so upset? She said, no, your daughter Jennifer's being very mean to me. So to have that relationship with her granddaughter growing up, was marvelous.
Yeah, that's super special, actually. And
it's very, very special.
To have that intergenerational input is fairly uncommon, I suppose, in our society, because in many other cultures it's not, but in our society, in our culture, it is quite unusual.
It is quite unusual. And when Mum actually passed, David's mother lives right over on the Northern Beaches in Sydney. And, I said to her, do you want to come here? Like, that to me was just really something I was very happy, to do, because she lives in her own home over there. But she's like, no, I'm staying where I am. I'm like, okay, no problems. But, that to me was just it's like it's a safe house downstairs in some ways, because it's big. Like, it's a villa size, so it's big. There's plenty of room, and I love the fact that we can do that. So it was well worth hanging in there and buying him out.
Yes. So how old were you, Jen, when you bought him out? Like what age was Jen then?
37.
Huh.
About 37. And the mortgage broker actually said to me, this is the biggest mortgage I've ever got for a single woman.
Wow.
And he was an Aussie home loans mortgage broker. So I'm like, oh, really? I don't know if that's such a good thing or not. But, I'm going to run with it being inspirational. I still have a big mortgage. But, that's okay. Like, that's what happens with divorces.
Yes.
You get I'm now remarried. He is a divorcee. That's what happens.
Yes.
You have good times and bad times. So, you borrow money to get through the bad times sometimes when you've got an asset.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've got to utilize what you have.
Yeah.
And keep it together.
Were you working at that stage in your own business, Jen? Can you just run it? So
yes.
you went back into your own business again.
Went back into my own business and built it up to the stage that it allowed me to buy him out. So, and that's when he said, you'll never do it. I'm like,
yeah.
Watch me.
Yes.
Yes. It was a good feeling.
It would have been a brilliant feeling. Absolutely brilliant. And what was his reaction when you actually did buy him out?
Geez, I can hardly remember because we fought so bitterly for like 18 months over the finances, as often happens. And then the funny thing was he just turned up on my doorstep one night. I'm like, what do you want? Like, he really wasn't welcome at the home by that stage. And he's like, I'll just accept what your first offer was. I'm like, you kidding me? We've just fought for 18 months with lawyers, involved, etc. And yeah, I don't think he's ever got over it, to be honest. Like, he's always been quite derogatory about me and what I do and how I live. But he never bought a property again. He had enough to do so once I paid him out. It was his choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't speak to him now, quite happily. So
yes. So your career, Jen, has had quite a few twists and turns as well.
Yes, it has.
And can you just lead me through the path of where you started, where it went, and then to where you are now? Because it's not always linear. Some people are in the same job for a long time. Others chop and change all the time. But you ended up getting quite a lot of experience with some big name businesses as well. And
yeah,
that's really interesting, which is helping you incredibly now doing what you are doing.
Well, I've been in the industry since I was 19. So I basically went straight from school into design school, then into the industry. So I have worked at like corporate companies. I've worked in design studios. I've worked in advertising agencies. And yes, I have been very blessed to work on some big accounts, Citibank, Woolworths, Commonwealth Bank. But that was pre-children. So once I had Charles, it was like, yeah, this kind of lifestyle isn't necessarily conducive to living with kids, because they expect a lot of time and effort, and quite understandably so. There's big kids involved. So I then started freelancing, which was a lot more suitable. So that's when I sort of got into doing my own thing, which I really enjoyed. But then the GFC came along, and there's a long sort of linear kind of way like you go. There's the GFC, so you kind of companies went bust, owing me money. So then I went into an employment, which I detested. Great clients, great people, horrific owners. I came out of that actually pretty broken. But one of my clients actually offered me a job. So I spent 7 years working at Sonova, which was great. They're a hearing aid company. And, it really gave me back a lot of self. It gave me back a lot of confidence. And then COVID came along, and in 2020, the bean counters in Switzerland decided that a designer in Sydney was not necessary.
Right.
So I was made redundant, which actually now, as you may know, I celebrated my second rebirthday on Sunday with a rebrand. And I actually looked at that now as my rebirthday, because I feel like that's when I really just came into myself again, back to those early days where I just loved life and there was no kind of dramas, when life was easy. I won't say life's easy, but it's certainly fun, and it's never boring.
Yeah.
Never boring. But just, I've been blessed along the way. I did actually meet another man, which was interesting, considering I said, no way, Jose, I don't men, poison, I did meet another man who I have now married. We've just celebrated our 15th anniversary and our 4th anniversary of being married, because we decided to do it on the same day so we wouldn't have 2 dates to remember, because both of us are hopeless different days. So that makes it easy. And he's amazing. He has helped me grow and blossom. He is so encouraging. He's so beautiful with both my mum and my daughter and our cats, because we have 10 cats, and he loves them and encourages cats in the house.
So you did say 10 cats, Jen.
10 cats, yes.
10 cats. Okay,
It is
we'll go on. We'll have a little think about that and go to that in a minute. So you keep on talking about your wonderful husband.
So yeah, he gave me my light back. But you know what? Somebody can't give you your light back. You've got to do it for yourself as well.
Yeah.
They can give you the spark, but you've got to do it yourself. So after being made redundant, I went into brand strategy, and I was loving it. Then I realized I want to do all the things, and I was doing all of the things, but then I realized that my passion really lay in helping startup businesses so they could do what I did. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. So I've actually I've not worked much this year at all, because I've spent a lot of time discovering myself, letting go of self-limiting beliefs. And I learned a lot about suggestive language. And you can obviously hear that I was super close to my mum, but my dear mum was a tiny ballet dancer, and she had a 9.5-pound baby. Because I come from a long line of Scottish Highland women. So, the joke was the little mother with the big baby. But what we don't realize is when we talk, and this, I have no resentment towards my mother about this. You heard earlier on how much I miss her, and we were such a team. But I grew up thinking I was big, too much. Like I'm very flamboyant. My mum was not. She was like the queen, she was a lady. But those ladies that are just ladies, that was my mother. Yeah. And then there's me with pink hair and big and loud and flamboyant. And I always, she'd go, Jennifer, shh. But it wasn't a bad thing. But what it does do is it makes you not be sometimes yourself. It's hard to put it into words. So it's like with suggestive language, when, somebody says to you, oh, hi, this is my daughter, such and such. She's a bit shy. You grow up thinking that, even if you're not. It's like, mum never introduced me as being big. But, she would say, oh, Jennifer, black looks so lovely on you. It's so flattering. So I would wear black. Now I never wear black. So realizing about the suggestive language has made me realize that I've actually lived a lot of my life trying to hide away, convinced that I was too much, too big. And this year has really changed all that, when I've realized that actually, no, I'm not. I'm okay the way I am. And as I said, my mum never meant it in any derogatory way. She was trying to help. My ex-husband, on the other hand, would say things like, you talk too much about yourself. So, yeah, I had to work on all of that to get rid of those self-limiting beliefs. But now I've pretty much got rid of those. And yeah, I'm pretty kind of happy to be me now.
Gosh, I love that story. That's so important, isn't it? And to have that time to be able to go back, understand where a lot of those self-limiting beliefs came from, those stories came from, knowing that it came from a place of love, not out of a place of trying to put you down, but they were subtle nonetheless. Like, it was uncomfortable. That's right. It was never about you. It was more about your mum being uncomfortable because that wasn't her.
Yes, that's it, exactly.
But in doing that, she's sort of left that legacy of that little whisper in your ear. But it's so beautiful now that you're in your 50s and you can go, this is who I am, and to peel back like an onion, peel back those layers to discover all of that again.
I know Mum would be so proud. She would be so proud.
Yes.
But it was just different generations, different lifestyles, And the ex-husband, that was just meanness.
But you know what? That has made you who you are as well. I mean, as hideous as that time would have been for you,
it was awful.
It has made you a stronger one. And your daughter now, what a bloody brilliant role model you are for her, in that she has seen the growth of her mum, and there's no age limit to the growth. That's what I love about.
I love to say this, you're never too old and it's never too late. I was made redundant at 52, and I just went, again, get those big girl panties on and go do your thing. And, I'm lucky. David, my husband, supports me in everything I do, like everything. And I'm so blessed. And I mean, like it goes two ways. I support him in everything as well. But, without him, without his constant encouragement, I would not be where I am today. And I'm the first to admit it. But back to Chelsea, one time I was talking to her and we were just at the front of the house, and I said to her, look, this is what I'm going to do with my business. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Must have been just after I was made redundant, and I'm going to have this and blah, blah, blah. And she said, Mum, she said, you'll do it, because she said, I've never seen you not do what you set your mind, like what you've set out to do and what you've set your mind to do. So I know you'll do that. I'm like, oh, well, that's nice. That's nice to see that, like, she's seen a strong woman, and she is actually at 25 a super duper strong woman, very strong mind, very calm and collected, not like a mother in that way, but very, confident. And I look at her and think, you know what? If I've done one good thing in my life, it's her.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's lovely to hear, Jen. So obviously the last couple of years have been big for you in your early 50s. So how has growing older shaped your current thinking? Because you've done a lot of self-discovery. Is it because you've become older, or you're now ready for it? I know your mum hasn't long passed. So was it because you needed that time to get over the grieving of her for you to work on your thoughts, or what?
Do you know something? I think COVID, to be honest, it gave us all time to reflect and think about things. And I think it gave us all a lot of gratitude as well. Yeah. I'm very grateful for my life that I have. I'm very grateful for my husband, my daughter, my cats, my daughter's boyfriend, my friends. And it just gave me time to think that, well, like, why do you not necessarily feel happy? And, whether that was some of, life has not been easy. There have been big ups and downs, as you've heard. And whether that was the good old perimenopause, kicking in, I don't know. But I just managed to really, and, working with business coaches as well, working in masterminds. I've been in 3 masterminds at Tracy and Carl, Mums with Hustle, the Inner Circle Mastermind that we're both in. I'm going back for a 4th year with that one, because like it's just so good and they're so supportive. And that's the thing too, you need that support and encouragement, not just from your family to say that you are enough, but from others. But honestly, into my 50s now, I feel like I'm 23 again. I just feel like, they say 50s is the new 30s. I'm saying, I'm putting it out there, the 50s are the new 20s.
I'm going out 50s are the new 50s. We'll just blast on through, I think, with
but I feel
how it can look.
For me, my mindset is, but like I feel as energetic and focused and happy as I did in my 20s. Early 20s. And that was a happy time, which is nice. Like, it's nice to feel like that.
So what are you looking forward to the most in your 50s and beyond? What is it that you're going, I can't wait for that. I'm ready for it.
Well, discovering my real passion for helping women. Like, people go, oh, but that's work. But I love it. Like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, ever. I guess, I'm looking forward to the grandkids. Let's be honest. I know I've got a few more years to wait for Chelsea, because she's still got a couple of years at uni. But I'm very blessed that David has 3 sons, and between them we have 5 grandchildren, which is lovely. And we love hanging out with them, and traveling, and just David and I growing old together and enjoying each other's company. 15 years down the track, we love each other's company, and that's really good. Possibly, I'm in a place now where I used to breed cats. I would love to go back to doing that. I have a very rare breed that there's not many left in Australia. I'm like, right, that's a challenge, because I never say no to a challenge. So that's a challenge, to come back into breeding Balinese cats, and just looking after myself, like looking after my health. I've had a lot of health scares well, not health scares, but, I've had a lot of surgeries. I had a bowel resection at 47, lost 40 centimeters of bowel.
Wow.
And, multiple hernia surgeries from that. And now I actually have an abdominal separation that needs to be fixed next year. But I'm also on a weight loss journey. I put a lot of weight in that first COVID lockdown after Mum had passed. So,
Yes.
I'm just going back, and I've got a really good routine because I was going to have bariatric surgery, but because of the surgeries, they couldn't do the surgery. So I had to go it alone. And I've lost nearly 30 kilos, which is awesome. I feel so much
Jen,
better,
brilliant.
so much better.
Yes.
And I've got about another 10 to go before I can have that abdominal surgery. But he's going to give me a tummy tuck at the same time. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to run with that. I was never going to have anything like that. I was quite happy in my skin.
Yeah.
But if he's going to be doing something down there, he might as well just cut some of that loose skin off, and it's not going to be any more painful. So I'm like, yeah, we're going to run with that.
So obviously health and wellness has become a focus for you now at this point in time of your life. And because you've had some medical issues to make you really force you to a point to do that. What sort of things do you do in your day that support your wellness?
Probably not enough.
If you had a go-to that you never want to stop, what's that one or two things that you actually do?
So I take I was telling you about them earlier. I take my I think it's called Fruits of the Forest. I can't remember the name of the business, but I take my turkey tail mushroom capsules, and apparently they're cancer inhibitors. So I'm very vigilant about taking those. I take vitamins. Because I'm still on the weight loss journey, I take vitamins that help me, not suppress my appetite, but because I don't eat a high calorie diet, they help me with that. I'm not an exercise fan. I'm totally not an exercise fan. I have one of those vibrating plates. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're great. You stand on them, you vibrate. You stand on them for 15 minutes. I know. It's quite funny. I say to people, oh, I'm going to go stand on my vibrator. And they go, what? Bodybuilders actually use them. A friend of mine that is a bodybuilder said, these are great. Yep. And I figure if you're vibrating that much, something's got to be happening. You're jiggling. And I do it when I'm watching TV. So I've got something. I struggle with exercise because I can't be doing something else.
Yeah.
I can't read while I'm riding a bike. I mean, I can listen to podcasts while I walk, but not a fan, just not a fan. So that's something I do that actually probably 6 out of 7 nights. And it's really, really helped. And continuing on the weight loss journey, I feel better. Like my blood pressure has come down. I was very close to I was actually right on the borderline for type 2 diabetes. That is all fine. My insulin levels are absolutely normal. My fatty liver has disappeared. I don't have a fatty liver anymore. So, for me, actually that would be the one big thing, maintaining my weight.
Yeah.
And not letting it go back on again, which has happened to me. It's been a yo-yo over my whole life.
Yeah. Oh, well, congratulations on reaching where you are now. And I'm sure with doing whatever you're doing, that weight loss will continue to come off, and you'll get that surgery, Jen. I'm sure that's what you're aiming for. That will happen because we know that you love a challenge and lay down a challenge, and Jen will take it.
That's what he said when I had my gallbladder out recently. He's like, okay, so you've got another 15 to go. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. That's my goal. So actually I've lost 5 since then, so I've got 10 to go. But and actually what I will give a shout out to is Light and Easy, because that has made life so much easier, and it's helped tremendously. I'm not someone that loves to cook.
Yep.
And this has just helped with portion control, with everything. It's made it just Light and Easy. It's a perfect name for it, really. And the food is good. Surprisingly, the food is fantastic.
Oh,
hubby even eats it.
Everyone's got their own recipe for the health and wellness to support them. So whatever works for you, and it obviously is working for you. There is no one size fits all for.
No, there's not.
And
I think not. And you can kind of go, oh, but what happens when you go back onto normal food? Well, you know what? Light and Easy is so easy. I reckon we'll be eating that as part of our diets for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
So because the food changes, they change it up every season, and please note, I have no affiliation with these people.
I won't say this episode has been brought to you by
Light and Easy. No, it's just been such a game changer for me, though.
Yeah.
Such a game changer.
Oh, that's brilliant. Now, Jen, how can people connect with you? Because we'll wrap up very shortly. So if people are interested in, especially within your branding and helping particularly women in business, that's your passion, where can people find you? And I'll add them to the show notes as well.
Great. So you can find me. I hang out on Instagram a lot. So you can find me at Gen B Brands or Pink Pom Pom Social. And we're both on Facebook as well. And I'll let Jo put the website names into the show links, because otherwise you're going to forget what I say.
Yeah.
If you're anything like me.
Brilliant. Jen, I've got two questions to wrap us up. So if you could give the 40-plus woman one piece of life advice, what would it be?
Don't ever dull your sparkle.
Oh.
Honestly, you going into your best years, don't ever dull your sparkle, and don't let anyone else do it either.
Yeah. Well, you're
really
living
easy. That just came straight out.
Yeah. Well, you've lived it. So that's why that came out so easily for you.
Yeah.
If you could look into the future, Jen, what do you hope that 80-year-old Jen will say about current day Jen?
I think 80-year-old Jen would be going, you did well, darling. You did well. Good on you. And 80-year Jen's still going to have pink hair, just quietly.
Brilliant.
Totally still going to have the pink hair. But I think 80-year-old Jen will look and say, I'm glad you spent that time being like discovering yourself again, because now I'm having a lot of fun.
Yes.
So I think that's, yeah.
I'm sure I can see 80-year-old Jen with her Balinese cats all around her and pink flamingos in the background, champagne glass in hand, and a light and easy ready to go for dinner.
Yep. That's it.
Jen, I've absolutely loved our conversation today, and I thank you so much for your honesty, your vulnerability, and you being such an open book. And I know something in this for everybody. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a blast.
Thanks so much for listening and sharing your time with me today. I'd love you to hit subscribe on Apple Podcast or your favourite podcast app to keep spreading these empowering messages. Please share this podcast with other incredible midlife women in your world. Join me again next week for another redefining midlife conversation. Thanks again for tuning in.